Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Studious Aura. Today we will discuss about Nanda nursing diagnosis. So we all know how to make NCP nursing care plan, uh, but we have many problems, many doubts regarding the Nanda's diagnosis. Some people even ask what is Nanda diagnosis and is it necessary to take the diagnosis from only Nanda's diagnosis or can we make our own diagnosis? So I'll be here to clear all of your doubt regarding the Nanda's diagnosis. Okay, so firstly, in the basic nursing diagnosis, what we have to do in nursing care plan, we have to take 5 steps. We have to write the nursing care plan in 5 steps like assessment, nursing diagnosis, planning or interventions, then evaluations. Now, the nursing diagnosis is the second step of the nursing care plan. Okay, so these 5 steps I have described in my video and I have given the link in the description box. You can go there, click on the link and watch the video and you will understand better. And for nursing care plan, how to make the nursing care plan in a very easy way and effectively, and what are the basics you should know for making the nursing care plan very uh, good and appropriate according to the patient. I have made a video and you can watch from there, and I have given the link in the description box for that. Now let's start with our topic, which is Nanda's diagnosis. So I'll discuss here some Nanda's international nursing diagnosis with you. And for many of the problems, like from head to toe, if we are having any health problem, so we have some Nanda's diagnosis which is written in the Nanda international diagnosis, and we have to collect from there. We have to take this diagnosis from there and write in our nursing care plan. Okay, so first I'll tell you about the health promotion. Like first is for health awareness, so the diagnosis can be decreased diversional activity engagement, readiness for enhanced health literacy, and sedentary lifestyle. So the sedentary lifestyle, it you have you have heard lots of time this diagnosis sedentary lifestyle, because it is very common in the nursing care plan, and we often use this nursing diagnosis in our NCP. Okay, next is for health management. So there can be risk for frail elderly syndrome. Okay, now there are many diagnoses for one thing and all. So I'll be discussing only the most common diagnosis which we use in our nursing care plans. Okay, otherwise it will take a lots of time to make you understand about all the diagnosis. Okay, and these are of no use in like in common things. So for health management, very commonly we use the ineffective health maintenance or ineffective health management. Okay, then ineffective protection also we can use. Then in nutrition, now let's go to nutrition. There can be imbalanced nutrition less than body requirement. We use this nursing diagnosis very commonly in the thin and lean patients, in the patients whose body nutrients are less, and we can also use in the patients who are facing the problems like fatigue, weakness, anemia and all. So we can use there the imbalanced nutrition less than body requirements. And even if the patient is in hospital, then it's obvious that he will not take the food sufficient amount, so we can use this nursing diagnosis. Then there can be ineffective breastfeeding, interrupted breastfeeding after the parturition and all up to the 6 months. Then ineffective infant feeding patterns in the pediatric wards. Then obesity and overweight, we will use this very commonly, like obesity or overweight. You can check for the BMI. Now there is a nursing diagnosis overweight and also a risk for overweight. So what is the difference between these two? Okay, so overweight is the nursing diagnosis we have given to the patient after measuring the BMI of the patient by taking the weight and the height and the meters, and we have measured the BMI, and uh, and then we have compared that BMI results, and we have given the category of the patient that he is overweight. So we can give this nursing diagnosis to the patient. But if there is a risk for overweight, so what is the meaning of risk here? Risk means it is the future nursing diagnosis, like the nurse is predicting that the patient can have this problem in future. Okay, for example, if the patient's BMI is at borderline, so you can give this diagnosis like risk for overweight. If the patient will not take care of the health, and the lifestyle changes cannot be there, then there can be the risk for overweight. Okay, so I hope you have understood the difference between the two diagnoses, like provisional diagnosis and the risk diagnosis. Okay, and this is the very important thing, and this is the major thing in which we all will confuse, we all have got confused once. Okay, now for digestion and absorption we don't currently have any nursing diagnosis. Then for metabolism we have risk for impaired liver function, risk for unstable blood glucose level. So this is the most common nursing diagnosis, and you can see here in the metabolism part there are more diagnoses related to risk only, because in metabolism what happened, we can see the lab reports of the patients, and we can conclude from there that that there can be the risk for this and this. Okay, then for hydration, there is a risk for electrolyte imbalance, risk for imbalanced fluid volume, deficit fluid volume, risk for deficit fluid volume, and excess fluid volume. These all the nursing diagnosis in the hydration part we use very commonly. Like for electrolyte imbalance and fluid volume, we use in cardiology department, we use in nephrology department, and all we use in burns. Okay, where there is a role of fluid in the body, role of blood, role of electrolytes, so we can use there. Then in the elimination and exchange part there is urinary function, like impaired urinary elimination, functional urinary incontinence, overflow urinary incontinence. So there are some types of incontinence we have like there are some type of urinary incontinence we have learned in our BSc nursing first year, so we can use that diagnosis here, like for a particular type of incontinence. Okay, then GI function. In GI function there is a constipation and risk for constipation. So you will now tell me what is the major difference between this diagnosis constipation and the risk for constipation, and please write this in the chat box. Okay, please write it in the comment box and tell me. Then chronic functional constipation, risk for chronic functional constipation, diarrhea, bowel incontinence. These are some common nursing diagnoses we use in GI department. So please write in the comment box the difference between the constipation and risk for constipation, so that I will get to know that you have understood or not. Now the in the integumentary functions we don't have any nursing diagnosis currently, but we can have in future in the new edition. And in the respiratory function we have one nursing diagnosis, which is impaired gas exchange, and we use very often this diagnosis in, for example, if the SpO2 is very low and is there is a hypoxia in the patient, so we can use this. And in activity and rest, so for sleep and rest we use insomnia, sleep deprivation, readiness for enhanced sleep, and disturbed sleep pattern. So these all we used very commonly. Disturbed sleep pattern is very much common in the ward settings, in the inpatient department, because if the patient has admitted in the hospital and there is a hospital stay for a long time, so there must be a disturbance in the sleep pattern due to the change in the environment from home to the hospital, and the noise level, and there are many of the machines, there are many of the electronic devices, ventilators and all, which can disturb the sleep pattern of the patient. So we can use this diagnosis also. Then activity and exercise. So for activity and exercise, we use impaired physical mobility for the bedridden patients very commonly, and then impaired walking for the fracture patients, and impaired bed mobility. Impaired bed mobility for the paralyzed patients, for the ventilated patients and all, we can use this. But most commonly we used impaired physical mobility, because it is this can be used in many of the patients, in many of the departments. That's why I'm calling this most commonly we use. Okay. Then energy balance. In energy balance, imbalance energy field, fatigue and wandering we can use. Then in the cardiovascular and pulmonary responses, we can use activity intolerance and risk for activity intolerance, ineffective breathing pattern. Ineffective breathing pattern we are using very commonly. Then decreased cardiac output, risk for decreased cardiac output we can use in cardiology department only. Then impaired spontaneous ventilation, if the patient is not breathing spontaneously and we have to put the patient on the ventilator and all, then we can use this nursing diagnosis, impaired spontaneous ventilation. Then there can be the risk for unstable blood pressure, risk for the decreased cardiac tissue perfusion, ineffective peripheral tissue perfusion, and dysfunctional ventilatory weaning response. Then for the self-care, we have impaired home maintenance, and most commonly we use the diagnosis like readiness for enhanced self-care and the impaired home maintenance also. Readiness for enhanced self-care for the patient who uh, who are recovering, and now he is ready to do the self care for their own self. Okay, so we can give this nursing diagnosis in the recovery phase of the patient, and after the or at the time of the follow up. Okay. Then for the perception and cognition, for attention there is unilateral neglect, or for orientation and sensation perception we don't have any nursing diagnosis now, but in future we can have. Okay. Then for cognition, most commonly we use deficient knowledge. Deficient knowledge we use almost in every patient if he don't know about the diagnostic condition and the procedures properly. Okay. Note the point that if he don't know about the diagnostic condition and the procedures of the and the surgical procedures. Okay. Then impaired memory, this can be used in the patients of dementia and all. Then then chronic confusion, and readiness for enhanced knowledge, if the patient is ready to learn something new about their health from you, then we can use this nursing diagnosis. Then for the communication, there is impaired verbal communication, we use this very commonly. Then self perception, in the self concept we can use hopelessness, risk for compromised human dignity, readiness for enhanced hope, disturbed personal identity, risk for disturbed personal identity. But these are not so common diagnosis, but we use hopelessness commonly in the like psychiatric patients, in the patient who is very much depressed, we can use hopelessness. Then self-esteem, chronic low self-esteem, situational low self-esteem, risk for chronic low self-esteem and all. So then body image, there is disturbed body image, we can use in burn patients also, and we can use in the post mastectomy patients, and any of the organ removal, after the any organ removal we can use this nursing diagnosis, the disturbed body image. Then role relationship, caregiving roles. Okay, now okay, caregiving roles, so caregiver role strain हो सकता है, and impaired parenting, risk for impaired parenting and all. Then family relationships, there is dysfunctional family process, it is very common, and we use it in the psychiatry only, psychiatry, and you can use in other departments also, like oncology and all. Then role performance. Oh, sorry. Role performance. So there is ineffective relationship, risk for ineffective relationship, and the parental role conflict, impaired social interaction. We will use these nursing diagnosis very commonly. Then in the sexuality, for the sexual identity, we don't have any nursing diagnosis currently, and in the sexual functions there are sexual dysfunction and ineffective sexuality pattern. Then for the reproduction, we have some nursing diagnosis like ineffective childbearing process, risk for ineffective childbearing process, and the readiness for enhanced childbearing process, and risk for disturbed maternal fetal diet. Then for the coping and the stress tolerance, we have post-trauma responses like risk for complicated immigration transition, post-trauma syndrome, risk for post-trauma syndrome, rape trauma syndrome, relocation stress syndrome, risk for relocation stress syndrome. So we can use this very commonly. Then in the coping responses, there are many nursing diagnoses, but the very common are anxiety. Okay, ineffective activity planning, ineffective coping. We will use it very commonly. Then fear, grieving, complicated grieving, risk for complicated grieving, impaired mood cognition, powerlessness, risk for powerlessness. Then chronic sorrow, stress overload. We use these nursing diagnoses very commonly in the patients. And then in the neurobehavioral stress, acute substance withdrawal syndrome, risk for acute substance withdrawal syndrome, the neonatal abstinence syndrome, risk for disorganized infant behavior, and all. We can use these diagnoses. And in the life principles, for the values and beliefs, for the values only we don't have any nursing diagnosis. For the beliefs, we have the readiness for enhanced spiritual well-being, because you know that the spiritual spirituality is also a component of the health. So there is a readiness for enhanced spiritual well-being. Then for the values, beliefs, action, and congruence, there are some nursing diagnoses: readiness for enhanced decision making, decisional conflicts, moral distress, spiritual distress, and you can write also the risk for these nursing diagnoses. Then the safety and protection. For the infection, we have risk for infection, which we are using very much commonly in every procedure, almost every procedure. Even we are doing catheterization, even we are doing the IV cannulation, we are doing any wound dressing, we are doing anything, we write this nursing diagnosis: risk for infection. Agree or not? Write in the comment box. Then risk for surgical site infection. Then in the physical injury, there may be ineffective airway clearance. This is the very common diagnosis, ineffective airway clearance, and according to the ABCDE criteria, this is the first nursing diagnosis. If the patient is having that condition only, then we can use the ineffective airway clearance. Then risk for aspiration, risk for bleeding, then risk for injury, risk for urinary tract injury, risk for thermal injury in the burns, risk for physical trauma, risk for shock, impaired skin integrity, and impaired tissue integrity also we can use very commonly. Then for the violence, there is a risk for female genital mutilation, risk for other directed violence, self mutilation, and risk for suicide. Risk for suicide we majorly used in the psychiatry settings. Then environmental hazards, there is contamination, risk for contamination, risk for occupational injury, and risk for poisoning. Then for the defensive processes, we have the nursing diagnosis: risk for allergy reaction or latex allergy reaction. If the patient is having the known allergy to the latex, we can write latex allergy reaction. And if the patient is not known to the latex allergy, and we predict that there can be the allergy from the latex, so we can give the nursing diagnosis allergic risk for latex allergy reaction. Then for the thermoregulation, we have some common nursing diagnosis. Sorry. For the thermoregulation, there are hyperthermia, hypothermia, risk for hypothermia, and risk ineffective thermoregulation. Then for the physical comfort, there is impaired comfort, nausea, acute pain, chronic pain syndrome, and labor pain. Nausea and acute pain we are using very commonly in at almost each and every disease. Then impaired comfort and readiness for enhanced comfort, this is in the environmental comfort, and in the social comfort there is impaired comfort, risk for loneliness and social isolation. Then growth and development. For growth we don't have any current nursing diagnosis in this, but we can have in future. And for development there is a risk for delayed development. Okay, because we cannot say that this is a delayed development of that child, because child is developing itself. So we can only predict by the sign and symptoms and other things, other risk factors, that there can be the risk for delayed development. So this is all about the Nanda's International Diagnosis, and if you have any query related to this, so you can ask in the comment box, and please answer my questions in the comment box so that I can get to know that have you understood very clearly or not. And thanks for watching my videos.